welcome to another episode of Feed My Sheep, Earthquake Reports, and more. I'm Terry Rempel, and what's the day today? It's the 26th of January. And we're doing a trip down the coast and touching on the Cascades, some of the Cascades volcanoes. And before we begin, and there's been a lot of activity, you can see from this one up here, that's actually from back on the 19th. But we've got a lot of current activity. Before we begin, all of our programs are dedicated to our Heavenly Father service, and we'll begin with a prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your continued protection of this program, your blessings that you share over all the world, really, as you call all to salvation. We thank you for your Son, Jesus, that you gave your life for us. And Holy Spirit, we thank you for your guidance. This is an incredible time, end times. Certainly, many changes are occurring. Many prophecies in the Bible are being fulfilled. And so we thank you for all the understanding we're provided. And we pray that we serve well. In Jesus' name, amen. So this is a little north of Petrolia. What we're doing today is we're doing just a quick review of what's going on through the Sierra Nevadas and what's going on the coast. So this gives us an idea of what's going on the coast. This is north of Petrolia, north of Petrolia on the coast in Northern California. And this is Lind Cove. Lind Cove is well south, the very south end of what the Northern California seismogram system covers. So this is down, getting close to, where's Lind Cove? Southeast of Fresno, about 45 miles and right on the western edge of the Sierra Nevadas. It's a good thing I wrote it down right here on the top. Anyway, that's a lot of tremors for this location. We haven't seen that many tremors before. So that's talking about waking up in the Sierra Nevadas. There's, volcanic systems are waking up. And here we have Buck Meadows heading up to the north. And this is a very, very turned down seismogram. This is actually a lot of activity. So you see nothing on the baselines because it's so turned down. So the activity got very large to come through on the seismogram. Going north to Columbia, this is a little bit more of a sensitive seismogram. These 20 seismograms, the type that they are, they show a lot more more activity, and so we see mainly tremors, and there's a small earthquake in here as well. And Richardson Springs is northwest of Paradise, due south of Mount Lassen, and there we have quite a bit of tremor activity at that location. Here we are east of Red Bluff, so we're working our way north, of course, and showing the activity there as well. So you can see the activity was up and down the whole Sierra Nevadas on the 19th. That's 19th and into the 20th. That's the midnight line right there. So this is all mainly showing activity on the 20th. This is Black Butte on the 19th and the 20th. We've got about 3 hours of the 19th up here. The rest of this is on the 20th. That's a lot of activity. And this is northwest of Mount Shasta. Now, I'd been talking about how much activity has been going on around Mount Shasta. And that's why I'm showing this, because I haven't shown it before. And I've been talking about it. So I thought, well, I'm going to save this in the program and you'll see what's going on. So this type of activity has been going on all around Mount Shasta. And this is not an amplified seismogram. You can see the baseline drops right down to where there's nothing showing on it. So this is set, if anything, a little bit on the low side. And this is north of Shasta, a little further to Ager, just south of Ager, actually. And that's a lot of magma-related activity up there as well. And this is all magma-related, okay? Magma movement causing vibrations. And back on the 19th, we're going to get to Santa Barbara later in the program. This was back on the 19th, so this was a big flare-up. This is the normal level of activity for Santa Barbara, and it's really been kicking up. There's a reason for that. And this is looking at Mount Rainier, just showing you that I'm paying attention. There's a small earthquake here. This one here. These are more distant offshore earthquakes, but this one right here. Sorry, I should blow that one up. This one right here is a localized earthquake, and you can see it. This is a Paradise Hotel site just south of Mount Rainier, and that's the same earthquake there. So you can see it changes just by moving away. So this earthquake here is right up on the summit. And that's a good-sized earthquake that is coming from the summit and coming down and showing at other sites. So that was probably in the 2.8 range. And this is West China. Just looking at a quick look at the magnitude of the earthquake that they had in China a few days back. That's on the 21st. 22nd actually was the date of the earthquake, and that was actually a near 8.0 earthquake. That was a good-sized earthquake, 8.0 or 8.1. We're not going to get a lot of information from that earthquake just because it's so far east, or so far west at the border of Kyrgyzstan. Wrangell, Warrenkovsky. Now we're doing today's seismology. And today's activity is showing a near 3.5 earthquake that's not been reported. This is in the neighborhood of Wrangell, Warrenkovsky. Warrenkovsky is the volcanic island about 6.5 miles in diameter north of Vancouver Island and inland of Edgecumbe volcano, which is on the outside, on the west side, of course. Now, this earthquake showed a little bit at Redoubt volcano, which it should. If it's a near 3.5, it should show up there. But it didn't show at Edgecumbe because Edgecumbe is actually turned down quite a bit. So coming down the coast, now we're coming down the coast and we're going to look at all the tremors and small earthquakes that are going on down the coast because this matters a great deal. And how much activity we have along the coast, that's the contact zone between the Pacific plate and the continental plates. And it matters how much activity we're having along there as far as subduction creep goes and precursor activity to the Cascadia. So we're looking at the Great Cascadia earthquake coming up and how much precursor activity, how much tremors and small earthquakes are we having along the coast. Is it accelerating? And yes, it is accelerating. The amount of activity is increasing. And so that's predictive of not to a date, but it just tells us we're advancing towards the Great Cascadia earthquake. So we've got two unreported earthquakes here off of Bamfield, area of Bamfield. That's on the west coast, southern Vancouver Island. We don't have a lot of good sensors there between Wrangell and Bamfield. There's basically nothing that's giving us access to a recorded seismogram. There's 2 hours of data is on the Canada site, but that doesn't work really well. Anyway, Northwest Peninsula, Olympic Peninsula, and look at all the activity up there. And these are good size. These are small earthquakes. This is all 1.0 to 2.0 earthquake activity here. This may be getting down 1.5. This is 1.0 range earthquake. So a bunch of small earthquakes, cluster of small earthquakes at the north end of the Olympic Peninsula. And those will probably have some offshore activity as well. It's not going to necessarily all be onshore. And you can't tell exactly where an earthquake is by looking at one seismogram. That doesn't allow you to place it. It only allows you to say that it's close by. And here we are at the southwest Olympic Peninsula, and we've got a lot of tremor activity down there. So we're looking at the tail end of today. This is after 9 o'clock in the morning. And this is near Ocean Shores in Washington, carrying on down the coast. And you can see for yourselves, that's a fair bit of tremor activity. This seismogram is set pretty sensitive, so it's going to blow up the size of this activity, but it's still showing a lot of tremors. And that's the case with Napa, Oregon. The seismogram is set to sensitive, but you can still see the increase in tremors. And so these tremors are not very small, but they are small tremors. This is east of Cannon Beach. I should be blowing these up so you can have a look. My apologies. There you go. This is east of Cannon Beach. Now you can see this one is not over amplitude. You see the activity level here is you see only a little bit of activity on the baseline. Now maybe this got turned up partway through the day, but again we see an increase beginning about 4 in the morning, maybe 4:30 in the morning. Now Nehalem, Oregon. Definitely an increase in the later half of this seismogram. This seismogram times out at 4 o'clock, 1600 hours. And again, this activity is picking up about 5 o'clock in the morning. So that's a lot of tremor activity down the coast. And that's the contact zone between the Pacific Plate and the continental plate. And I'm not worried about whether we're calling the plates exactly the right name. I'm talking about the oceanic plates, and that's the major point. Whether it's the Juan de Fuca plate or the Pacific plate doesn't matter for the case of seeing tremors down the coast, and that's what we're looking at. We're just looking at how many tremors we're having, what level of tremor activity we're having all down the coast. And the Juan de Fuca plate is basically locked up in the Pacific plate and behaves as part of the Pacific plate. You look at the outside of it, it's got a big sawtooth jagged edge. It can't really move much independently. Here's east of Cape Lookout. We're continuing to head south, Washington. So you can see the tremor level increases through the day. And this is Toledo. Lots of tremors there. This is a substation. But the substation doesn't produce this activity. It just reports it. Here we are at Waldport, Oregon. So most people are not aware that there is this level of tremoring all down the coast, and this is slowly increasing. So I've seen a dramatic change. This used to be a heavy level of activity in the center of the seismogram. Now the heavy activity is what we see down here. Reedsport, Oregon, again on the coast. So you can see the whole shoreline, the whole contact area of this plate contact boundary is tremoring very significantly. If you go back a couple of years and look at programs that we put up, you won't see this level of tremors. Cape Blanco. This seismogram is a little over amplitude in its setting, but again, you can see the change to an increase in tremors. At this site, it starts about 2 in the morning. Wedderburn, continuing to move south. Onset's a little bit later, just before 3 in the morning. Oh no, it's about 2 in the morning again. Lots of tremors. Lots and lots of tremors. And Pistol River, we're getting just about down to the California border now. Pistol River has a lot of tremors as well. So we're talking about the same thing. It doesn't look all that exciting all the way down, but what it means is we're getting a greater rate of subduction creep, and that's giving us more activity at the volcanoes. And that's a big deal because this is precursor activity loosening up that plate boundary. As it slips and keeps slipping, it's smoothing out a lot of rock. And as it smooths out the rock, it's going to slip more easily. Harbor, Oregon, when you get down into mines and you get hanging walls and contact zones, one side of that can be incredibly smooth. where regularly as you go through rock, it's very rough. But as it continues to move, it actually sands off the softer rock and gives you a smoother sliding area. So more movement creates easier movement. And so we're seeing a lot more movement, and that's going to create easier movement. It's not just that magma infiltrates and lubricates, because that happens as well, but just rock sliding on rock decreases the roughening. So you get less friction. And friction is what's restraining the Great Cascadia earthquake. If you reduce the friction enough, then it's going to let go, and it's well overdue, so it's going to go at some point here. Harbor, Oregon, on the California border. And there we have a bunch of tremors again, later in the day. That's beginning at about 10 o'clock in the morning. Now, southeast, we're heading south of the California border now, where Crescent City is right up at the north end, and this is southeast of Crescent City, California. And these do not blow up well. So lots of tremors up there. This site rarely gets to this level of tremors. This is north of Petrolia, same site that we began the program on, and you can see that this is not a site that has elevated amplitude. The baselines are quite quiet most of the time and quite small. So this is a huge jump in activity north of Petrolia. This is southeast of Petrolia. This is pretty normal activity. Now, popping over to Mount Lass, and this was earlier today. And so this is all blowing off steam and having tremor activity across the top here. How do we know that for certain? Well, we can look at the gas analysis. And so here we are looking at Mount Lassen a little later, and there's an earthquake right there. Well, that one's down to the south. I think that was a 3.7. Down in the Clear Lake volcano area. Here's the gas that we're getting from Lassen with the steam venting, and we see spikes of CO2 when it's really blowing off harder. And there's a little bit of a delay. It'll be blowing hard down below, and it won't necessarily get to the surface right away. But yeah, big spikes in activity coming from gas with Mount Lassen, and some of that we're getting spikes of H2S, hydrogen sulfide, as well. This is north of Mount Lassen at Hat Creek. This is a big increase in tremor size. So the tremor size is increasing north of Mount Lassen. This is West Mount Shasta at Black Butte. It's not terribly busy there, and things have settled down in the areas around the same latitude as Mount Shasta and north. So it's quieted down some. This is from northwest of Geyserville, showing the cluster of earthquakes south of Clear Lake that we had today, and a little bit yesterday as well. There was some yesterday, I believe. And this is from just east of Imola, so heading south, and this is not over amplitude. I don't know why we've got this big increase down there, but we certainly do. There may be some geothermal in the area because we can see some steam spikes through here. So it may be that there was a lot of geothermal type activity, but this has the appearance of being as much steam related as magma related, but it doesn't look like plate shift. There's not a known fault going through the Imola area. It doesn't mean that there isn't a fault there, but not a well-known one. So back to the coast at Bodega Bay. So there was a site near there that's been turned down, so it's not very useful, but this one is showing small earthquakes right on the coast and tremors as well. So this is a very turned down site. Nothing on the baselines. So this is actually significant sized activity. When we look just a little south to Marconi, This is a very sensitive seismogram. The Lie seismograms are more sensitive, the Lie 20 ones. And significant tremors going on down at Marconi. Going south to Pescadero, we're back on the 21st. So that's when it was busier, so I thought I'd show you some of the activity then. It's quiet today. And this is from east of Salinas. This is Monterey Bay, East Monterey Bay, or east of Monterey Bay. And we've got tremors and we've got a little bit of fault shift activity there. South of Jamesburg, this is today on the 26th. It's been busier than this. And I saved some other data showing the busyness that we did have. This is on the 22nd. I saved this one. Quite a bit of activity. Point Sur Park on the 22nd. Yeah, that's on the 22nd. And this was a little earlier on the on the 20th. So the date is the 19th. The midnight line is here. So most of this is on the 20th, the bigger activity. And Point Sur State Park on the 19th. There you are. So this is east of Pismo Beach on the 19th. And that's fault shift activity in that area. This is Squaw. We're continuing south. We're now on the Southern California, the Caltech site is giving us this information. So we've got multiple sites. We're going to hit, not a lot, but a few down the coast. This is Sisquoc. This is a little south of Pismo Beach, maybe 40 miles, something like that. So some big fault shift activity in with this. Earthquakes and fault shift. There's VLF activity in there. You can see that big, long wave lasting about 2 minutes to get through that wave. And we've got smaller waves up here as well of fault shift, and then we've got tremors. So there's plate shift going on in that area. Plate and fault shift. And this is Sisquoc on the 25th. Getting some of the same activity. And that's the biggest activity I've seen ever for this site. So that's a significant ramp up. Hello, Libby, and goodbye, Libby. That's my cat. Our cat. But as far as she's concerned, she's my cat. Here we are at the Emergency Operations Center of Santa Barbara on the 25th. And there is a bunch of plate shift activity right on the coast. And we're seeing more of that on the 26th. This is significant activity. I don't know if it would be felt, but it is very significant. Now the rest of the coast for California heading south has not been that busy. We've got a small increase in San Diego. There's a little bit of activity at Camp Pendleton, but that Camp Pendleton activity seems to be military-based because it takes regular breaks at 9 and from 11 till 12. And since it's taking breaks at the same time every day and begins at the same time every day, it's going to be man-made activity coming from that site, so I haven't shown it. Here we are now jumping across to just south of Salton Sea at El Centro, and this is a big jump in activity again for about a 20-25% jump for this site. That's a lot of activity. And we're going to see that activity has been increasing in the Baja area and south along the Imperial Fault as well. And so that's going to relate to what's going on at Salton Sea. And this is right at the corner of Salton Sea at the southeast at the Wister Waterfall site. And we can see with this that we've got some of that same fault shift activity right in here. These are long period magma pulse signals through here. And then we've got small tremors as well. But certainly having some fault shift activity. And we've got some of these waves that we see in other sites nearby, magma-related waves. north to Mirage, and this is a higher tremor level than normal, and we've got a significant signal in here. This is going to be a low frequency fault shift event through here. And then we've got some of that waviness that we're talking about related to fault shift and magma waves. It's hard to differentiate these at times, but we're having some of those significant ground waves happening. So this is in a rift fault area, Mirage, and that's heading up to Ridgecrest. And so it would not surprise me if we're not seeing a little bit of rift type activity that's showing this. But it's not significant size. What is of significant size is Cabazon. And this is in the, what's the name of that? I'm gonna have to remember the name of the mountains. The San Jacinto, San Jacinto Mountains, north end. And this is a lot of activity. That's a lot of fault shift activity in that site. And especially through here. So very undeniable. We've got a lot of movement up there. And there's pulse magma signals through that site as well, heading up into the Cal Electric site, San Bernardino. Now we're jumping way up to South Ridgecrest. South of Ridgecrest, this is the Fish Rock site, and this is magma, small pulsed magma signals, and this is happening daily up there, and it's been happening for a long time. We're basically at the south edge of the China Lake site involved with the Kozo volcanic field. And so there's good reason to think that this is magma related. It's not just earth tremors or something. It's magma related earth tremors. So this is going to tie into the Kozo volcanic field and China Lake intrusion. The base had a lot of magma intrusion at its lower underground levels. That's been pretty well established. Cache Creek on the 24th. Where's Cache Creek? Well, Cache Creek, Ridgecrest is at a junction of faults. The Garlock Fault runs from Ridgecrest, just south of Ridgecrest, across Cache Creek. And so this is Cache Creek activity, the Garlock Fault, Central Garlock Fault on the 24th. This is on the 23rd, the Garlock Fault at Cache Creek. And carrying on into the 24th. So there's been a lot of activity at Cache Creek. So this one here is an extra one. I meant to delete that one. So 23rd to the 24th, you can see the tremors between the two of them. And this is in excess of what we get with fault-related tremors. And you're going to see why with the next series. And here we are on the 25th. Much more pronounced. Never seen it this high. I can get my face out of the way a little bit. Never seen the activity this high. This is this fault is showing that it's got magma that's intruded into it. And it's becoming more active at times because of the magma in the fault. And that's showing up with this signal type. This signal type is very specific. And we show it again to the 25th. It's too long for a fault shift. That's the other thing. We're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hours of significant fault shift at that level, and nothing is moving on either side of it. You're not going to get isolated movement in the center of a fault like this and not have significant movement to the other ends of it. And we're not seeing this transfer to other sites along the same fault. And we do have other sites. So this is going to be magma related because it can't be anything else by the process of exclusion and by the signal type. And now we're So we're seeing a lot of fault activity in California, and that's what we're going to get into now. It's not just along the coast. We kind of stopped in the just north of LA, was showing you coastline activity, and jumped into the more into the mountains and into the rift areas. We're going to look at the faults that are there around Salton Sea and to the west. But first, we're going to look at southern Mexico via Volcano Discovery. And here we can see a line of submarine volcanoes across here. As close as the imagery is, that's what I believe these are. And that would be consistent with other areas that are shown. And look at all the earthquakes along there. So I think we're going to get into some submarine volcano activity in the area of this big bay at the south end of Mexico. Okay, so we're having a subduction-related event here as well, down at the south end. And you can see the angle of the ripples. They actually show how the direction of the plate movements, it's folding the seafloor in this area, and it's folding it in such a way as to tell you that it's moving perpendicular to the folds. So it's moving this way, getting some swing at the south end of the continent, and that makes sense. And we're going to move along, continuing up the plate boundary. I'll move myself out of the way there. Actually, I'll put myself, oh no, that's good there. So you can see continued earthquakes. These are all in the 2.5 and greater range all along here. A lot of them are in yellow. This is the Volcano Discovery site, and the yellow doesn't stand out as well against the background, but there's earthquakes all along here. It's just peppered. And this is 2 weeks of earthquakes. The current ones are in red, and the other ones are in orange. And they just continue along this plate boundary. It's a very, very active area compared to anything in the U.S. Very, very active down in the south end of Mexico. And this is an overview of what we're looking at. So this is the bay that we were looking at. This was the volcanic chain, submarine volcanic chain. We looked at about this area here. And this carries on into this frame gets chopped a little bit on the left side, but carries on for another couple 100 miles on the left-hand side. So lots of earthquakes focused along the plate contact boundary. And this is explaining that Mexico moves much more in subduction than and currently is than anywhere in the U.S. or Canada or Alaska. Part of the U.S., of course. And now we're moving further north. We're into the central Gulf of California area, about halfway up the peninsula. Baja Peninsula, of course. And let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15, 16, 17 earthquakes in this area. And these are all 3.5 and greater, except for this one smaller one here. So that's a significant bundle of earthquakes down there. Why I took the same photo twice, I'm not sure. We'll skip by that. And looking up at the north end, there was a lot of earthquakes at the north end of the Baja Peninsula as well. And that was supposed to be the load that showed there. But anyway, the last 2 days of earthquakes are showing along this fault system here. So you can see them running up the Elsinore fault. And that's what this is. So this fault is moving over the last 2 days very significantly. Hardly any. This is the San Jacinto fault up here. And the San Andreas runs on the other side of the Salton Sea. And we'll take a look at that on a fault map. Here you can see the San Andreas is here, running on the outside of, on the east side of the Salton Sea. The San Jacinto through Borrego Springs is coming down this way. On the west side of the Salton Sea, further inland is the Elsinore, and that's the one with all of the earthquakes on it that we just showed over the last 2 days. So the Elsinore Fault has been moving. And it's been moving the greatest amount. Now, I wanted to show you how the Elsinore hooks into the, basically hooks right into the San Andreas. And most people are not aware of this. So here we are. We're looking at the Elsinore here. Now, you see all these fault connections in here. It looks like it's broken, but it's not. We have a connection in this area. Comes through here, and it's nothing to say that they haven't discovered the connection between these two. So it's very likely that the Elsinore Fault connects right up to the San Andreas up in this area here, just connecting through these faults. And this is a natural pass highway runs through here. So that all makes sense, and we've looked before at connections between the San Andreas and the Elsinore in signal traffic. Seismic signal amplitude is held very well between the San Andreas earthquakes and the Elsinore. And this is the San Jacinto, and it hooks directly into the San Andreas. So the Elsinore can move, or I mean the San Jacinto can move independently with the San Andreas and not move the southern end of the San Andreas, which is more getting into the Imperial Fault. And looking to the north, we get to look at the Garlock Fault, and that's why I saved this one. So there's the Big Bend, what they call the Big Bend of the San Andreas, and this is where the Garlock Fault, Ridgecrest is up around here, and Fish Rock Springs is right in this area. The site that we were looking at with all of the activity that I was saying, that's Magma in the Garlock, is right in this area, central, near Tehachapi. And this is the Garlock Fault cutting across, and it actually extends into the mountains here. I don't remember the name of those mountains right now, but getting close to Santa Barbara, which is over here, just a little bit to the west of here. So it gives you an idea of what's going on. There's a lot of faults in Southern California. I mean, a whole bunch of them are not even named. This is all through the Mojave Desert. It's just full of faults, and it's full of mines as a result, because faults deposit, have magma come up through them, hydrothermal activity that brings, when we say hydrothermal, it's silicate-based magma with water involved with it and minerals with it. And sometimes it's calcite, sometimes it's quartzite, and it's mixed with different rock types. Different minerals are deposited, and you get mines. So rising magma through faults gives you mining bases, and that's why we're full of mines in the Mojave Desert. And it's been interesting looking through some mines, seeing hanging walls and different structures underground, and it helps to understand how faults work. Now, I've saved another view of the faults, the earthquake activity in Southern California, and this is going back an extra couple of weeks. So the majority of the earthquakes have been along the San Jacinto Fault. You see them in yellow across here. So all these clusters of earthquakes, we can see that the San Jacinto, and this is the San Andreas over here, San Jacinto is much, much more busier, and it points right in to San Bernardino, and that's where this earthquake is as well. So we've got a 4.2, I think it was, that area. So I hope that helps you understand some of the faults, some of the activity that we're having. So in Southern California right now, there's less activity of subduction along the coastline. There's more activity of the fault shifting, the Elsinore and the San Jacinto. But the Imperial Fault is busy heading down into the Baja, into the Gulf of California, and southern Mexico is tremendously busy through the contact zone between the Pacific Plate and the continental plate. So things are really moving. The tremor level has picked up very significantly in Washington and Oregon and in Northern California, northern and central. So there's a lot of activity going on, and it's keeping reactivation going of the volcanoes of the Cascade Range, and it's feeding volcanoes in the Sierra Nevadas. And without tracking the tremors, you don't see the cause for why the reactivation is happening in the Sierra Nevadas and in the Cascade Range. So every once in a while we get over there and we show you all these tremors along the coast. That's subduction underway. And the faster it's moving, the closer it says we're getting closer to the Great Cascadia earthquake. And that's something we need to be aware of as well. So it continues to accelerate. We're not saying there's anything imminent, but it's getting closer. And when we start seeing very significant clusters of earthquakes at volcanoes and much more significant tremors along the coast, we're going to know we're very close at that point. All right, so there's going to be greater large earthquake precursor activity, and it looks like it's going to be in California because California is moving more, except it's a little jammed up at the south end. All right, so we'll see what happens. We can't predict exactly what's going to happen, but there's some indications that the LA area and the San Francisco area are higher risk locations for large earthquakes in the relatively near future. So hopefully everybody's prepared in those areas, and that's about the best information we can provide. If you like what we're doing, give us a thumbs up. Yes, we have a new channel. I should share that with you first. Because we've been doing enough in-depth biblical study and related programs, we started up, it's not that we're not going to post here still for a while, but we started up a new channel. We put 5 of our most recent biblical Bible study programs over there, and it's called Two Witnesses. I'm remembering the Two Witnesses, and it's at Two Witnesses John 1-12
on YouTube when you want to search.
Yeah, so if you want to find it on YouTube, that's how you get to it. At Two Witnesses, it's capital T, capital W, John 1-12. John 1:12 is a great verse.
And also, if we have any more problems with Feed My Sheep and they get to where they start taking us down, we will use Two Witnesses as our backup channel.
Yeah, that's the other thing. We need to have a backup channel.
Because we're being docked views.
Yeah, we lose up to 100, 200 views per program now. So we see the views go up, and then the next day they're down, or later in the afternoon they're down. So we're having some issues of censorship. We're obviously hitting some nerves with the truths that we're revealing. Some people don't like what we're showing you guys. So there it is. They're going to take some. If our programs have less views, then they're going to trend less. They're going to get less recommendations on YouTube. That's just the way it goes. That's the system that we're working within. All right.
If you want to get back at them, keep hitting the like button, share, and encourage everybody to come on over for Feed My Sheep Earthquake Reports and more. And if they want to do Bible studies with us and learn new things that we're learning, go on over to Two Witnesses.
Yep. And we'll see you then. Go with God's blessing, and bye for now.